The story of Ibrahim Traoré, a hero of Burkina Faso. In the heart of West Africa, a young leader rose to prominence under extraordinary circumstances. His name is Ibrahim Traoré. But who exactly is Ibrahim Traoré? To those unfamiliar with Burkina Faso or its history, the story of this man might seem like the plot of a movie, full of sudden twists, remarkable courage, and unyielding resolve to change the course of a nation. To understand Ibrahim's significance, it's crucial to learn about his background, his rise to power, and the challenges he faces in one of the most turbulent regions of Africa. The early years of Ibrahim Traoré, a man of humble beginnings. Ibrahim Traoré was born in the late 1980s in Burkina Faso, a landlocked country that shares borders with Mali, Niger, Benin, Togo, Ghana, and Côte d'Ivoire. The country, which was once known as Upper Volta, has a rich history of revolutionary movements and political turmoil. It is a country that has been shaped by struggle, and the challenges its people face are woven into the fabric of their daily lives. Traoré came from a relatively humble background, growing up in a time when Burkina Faso was still healing from the wounds of the past. As a child, he would have seen the country transition from the revolutionary ideals of former President Thomas Sankara, whose assassination in 1987 marked a turning point for the nation. Although the ideals of Sankara's revolution lived on in the hearts of many, the country was riddled with corruption, inequality, and internal conflicts. From an early age, Traoré had an innate sense of justice. Like many children in Burkina Faso, he likely witnessed the disparities and social inequities that have plagued the nation for decades. However, his path would lead him far beyond the role of an ordinary citizen. The path to the military, training for leadership. In a country where military coups and uprisings have shaped political landscapes, it wasn't surprising that Ibrahim Traoré would end up joining the military. As a young man, he was deeply influenced by the stories of soldiers who fought for change and stability. The army in Burkina Faso has always been a powerful institution, and its leaders often play a significant role in the political direction of the country. Traoré attended the country's military academy, where he trained as an officer. Throughout his military career, he exhibited a mix of discipline, sharp intellect, and a deep understanding of the socio-political dynamics that influence Burkina Faso's national security. His expertise as a military officer was not just limited to strategy and tactics. It was also about understanding the political climate and how military leadership could influence national stability. His military career would later become the cornerstone of his rise to power. But, as is often the case in African politics, his journey was shaped by the instability and unpredictability of the political environment. Burkina Faso's political landscape, the birth of a new revolution. To understand Ibrahim Traoré's rise to power, we need to take a step back and look at the political landscape of Burkina Faso over the past few decades. The country, under the leadership of Blaise Compaoré, who took over after Thomas Sankara's assassination in 1987, experienced relative stability for years. However, in 2014, after a wave of public protests, Compaoré was forced to resign due to his attempt to extend his 27-year rule. This moment marked a critical turning point in the history of Burkina Faso. After Compaoré's ouster, the country went through a period of uncertainty and transition. The political vacuum left behind led to a rise in the power of military leaders, who, in some cases, attempted to seize control. In 2015, a coup was attempted by the Presidential Security Regiment RSP, a special unit loyal to Compaoré. The coup failed, and the people of Burkina Faso, once again, had to grapple with their uncertain future. This political instability will provide an opportunity for a new generation of leaders to rise. Leaders who sought to forge a new path for Burkina Faso, free from the legacies of the past. It was in this environment of turmoil and uncertainty that Ibrahim Traoré would emerge. The rise of Ibrahim Traoré, a commander in crisis. Ibrahim Traoré's rise to national prominence came in 2022, during one of the most critical times in Burkina Faso's history. The country, like many others in the Sahel region, was grappling with the rise of extremist insurgencies, particularly from groups linked to Al-Qaeda and the Islamic State. These groups had taken advantage of the instability in the region, exacerbating violence and terror in Burkina Faso. In response to this growing insecurity, the Burkinabe people were increasingly disillusioned with their government's inability to to provide security and stability. In January 2022, Burkina Faso's then President, Roch-Marc Christian Kabore, was overthrown by a military coup. The country, once again, was at a crossroads. The coup was led by Lieutenant Colonel Paul-Henri Sandaogo Damiba, who promised to restore security and stability. However, just a few months later, in September 2022, another coup took place, this time led by Ibrahim Traoré. Traoré's rise to power was a result of dissatisfaction within the military ranks over Damiba's handling of the escalating insurgencies in the country. The situation had grown dire, with more than 1.5 million people displaced and thousands of civilians killed by insurgents. What made Traoré's coup significant was the fact that it was not a personal power grab. Instead, it was framed as a response to the needs of the people and the military's own internal concerns. Traoré was seen as someone who could bring a fresh approach to the crisis, a leader with the potential to turn the tide against the insurgents. The challenges of leading Burkina Faso. Ibrahim Traoré's rise to power was swift and dramatic, but it came with immense challenges. The security situation in Burkina Faso was deteriorating, and the country was facing unprecedented levels of violence. The insurgents had gained control over large swathes of territory, particularly in the northern and eastern parts of the country, and were actively recruiting young people into their ranks. As a young leader, Traoré faced not only the challenge of military strategy, but also the challenge of maintaining popular support. In a country plagued by poverty and underdevelopment, many citizens were disillusioned by the promises of past governments and military leaders. They needed a leader who could restore order, rebuild the country's institutions, and, most importantly, ensure their safety. Traoré's approach to governance has been centered on the idea of national unity and sovereignty. He has made it clear that his leadership would prioritize the security of Burkina Faso's people, even if it meant making difficult decisions. In his speeches, he often emphasizes the need for a united Burkina Faso, free from external influence and internal divisions. He has also called for the strengthening of the military and for more resources to be dedicated to countering insurgency. But while many see him as a man of action, Traoré's critics argue that his approach has yet to yield tangible results. The violence has not subsided, and the country remains in a state of emergency. Burkina Faso's military has also faced accusations of human rights abuses, particularly in the context of their efforts to combat the insurgents. This has led to growing tensions between the military and the civilian population, international reaction, and the role of Burkina Faso's allies. One of the most significant aspects of Ibrahim Traoré's leadership has been his stance on Burkina Faso's foreign relations. Traoré has been outspoken in his criticism of foreign interventions in Africa, particularly the presence of French troops in the Sahel region. In a move that garnered international attention, Traoré expelled French military forces from Burkina Faso, citing their failure to adequately address the security crisis. This decision marked a shift in Burkina Faso's foreign policy, as Traoré sought to strengthen ties with other African nations and explore partnerships with countries like Russia. While some applauded his stance on sovereignty and self-determination, others worried about the potential consequences of distancing Burkina Faso from its traditional Western allies. The legacy of Ibrahim Traoré. Ibrahim Traoré is still a young leader, and the full extent of his legacy is yet to be written. His rise to power has been marked by dramatic events and uncertain times, and his leadership will undoubtedly be defined by the ongoing struggle for security and stability in Burkina Faso. Whether he succeeds in bringing peace to his country, or whether his tenure is defined by continued conflict, remains to be seen. What is certain is that Ibrahim Traoré is a man of conviction, a leader who is determined to change the course of his country's history. His story is still unfolding, but already it is clear that his influence on Burkina Faso will be felt for years to come. As we look to the future, it's important to remember that Ibrahim Traoré is more than just a figurehead of a military coup. He is a man of his time, a leader born from the struggles of his people, and someone who seeks to chart a new path for Burkina Faso in the face of immense adversity. Only time will tell whether his vision for the country will come to fruition, but one thing is for certain: his journey has already become an integral part of Burkina Faso's history.